And welcome to Critical Connections. And as all of you know, our purpose is to encourage and enhance critical writing in ceramics. And we had agreed after our last conversation about beauty that we wanted to have some specific images to look at. So I hope people have brought some. I know Rita sent me some images. And here comes Mary Jane. So the Gentile Foundation is a part of that Nelchi Center that I was just mentioning. So Mary Jane is here in Wyoming. That there's Joe Loria. Joe is in LA. So anyway, who would like to start with an image to discuss?
Linda, you have one, right?
Okay,
yeah, I
Linda.
got one. Yeah, okay.
Okay, let me wait a minute.
We have to all be able to share your screen. I have one too after or whatever at some point.
Yep, it's set.
Now, what do? I'm pushing it, and then I'm supposed to see share screen.
Yep.
Anna told me what to do. Share it.
Over the phone with no visuals.
Your tech
Okay,
coach.
how about that? All right, is there something that says share? I'm trying to drag it
It's
in.
bottom at the green. It's in green at the bottom.
Yes.
Click the arrow.
Oh, so wait a minute. I know I should probably bring this up big on my screen first.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you can
Have to.
share your desktop.
Okay. Okay. There you go. And now, how about, where's the share bit? Here it is.
Down at the bottom, it's green.
Here, I got it. There it is. Now, should I push it again?
Yep. There you go. We got it.
We got part of it. Oh, that's because I'm not pulled all the way in. Now is it whole?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Good.
So some of Linda's work, as I'm sure you all know, is edgy with political and personal content. Some of it is humorous. And how would you describe this, Linda? Are you strictly going for the beauty of the image and capturing the quality of the original, the flower, or are there?
Well, yeah, I feel like I listened to your last talk, after it happened, and I was like, I want to talk. I was during a show, an award in Minneapolis, and there was a perfect teapot. It was gorgeous. And then there was this piece by, I don't know, a Korean guy, I think. And God, I was like, I could teach that guy how to China paint. But the thing is, it wasn't perfect, but it took me to so many places where that teapot was like, yeah, that's perfect, done. So when I'm making this cotton bowl, and it's a good yard, it's maybe a little longer than a yard, it's big. I want to talk about beauty, but I want to talk about aggression, and I want to talk about danger, and and those kinds of things. I don't want to just, it's beautiful, but should you really touch it? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Can you get at it? And then it's a lot of spotty stuff on this brown. It's kind of crackled, kind of a luster.
So really the beauty is the lure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, here we have thorns and yeah. So
yeah,
the
it's
beauty,
a cotton bowl, so they're prickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really interesting. You can draw somebody in with humor or with beauty, but I usually want to have something more to say than just that.
Right. Yeah. Other comments or questions for Linda?
Linda, I just wondered, maybe this would have been too direct, overt, but if you're trying to get across the message of seduction and repulsion, have you thought about making carnivorous plants? those
Oh,
would,
I have done that.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah, I have thought of that. Uh-huh.
well, just because I think that carnivorous plants are just by nature, they bring up the danger to humans because we think of them
Mhm.
as meat and flesh eaters.
Mhm.
But they are usually really brightly colored and quite beautiful.
Mhm.
Here at the Huntington Museum and Library and Gardens, they have what's called the corpus plant
Mhm.
that only blooms once a year for like 3 days, and it's enormous. It's like 5 feet tall, and they
Wow.
call it the corpus plant because it smells so badly. It smells like a rotting
Mhm.
corpse.
Yeah, I've seen it in Washington at the their greenhouse there.
I was always thinking, what a great symbol, you
Mhm.
know, the of so many things in life. You know, it's oversized. It's basically non-functional until it blooms, and then when it does bloom, you know, you're just astounded by its beauty, but you're repelled by its smell.
Uh-huh.
So Linda, have you thought about using that type of kind of with the dichotomy within the flower, that the flower itself is of a species that's threatening? There, I wanted to
Yeah.
put something beautiful up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was going for beauty on this. I have another picture of another one that I brought that's just silly. Yeah, I have thought of those things, of course. Yeah. You want to
Yeah,
try another one? We
sure.
can do it. Let's see. Okay, now I share it. Do I exit this thing? Wait a
You
minute.
can exit that with the red button up on the top, and
Okay,
then
thank you. And then put this, and then
you might have to share
there's the
again.
share screen.
Yeah.
Mhm. Should I bring it over? Yeah, there you go. This is called Chanteuse de l'Opera. And I mean, it's ridiculous and it's feminine, and it's about a woman shouting for attention, which a lot of flowers do. And why do we have color in flowers, and why do we have anything? It's just so that we can seduce birds and butterflies and have sex, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I
And this
think it's a funny thing.
this piece is a bit sexual.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. I said that facetiously a bit. Yeah. Well, and this one is too, where the humor draws you in, maybe not
Mhm.
the threat, but the humor draws you
Mhm.
in.
Mhm.
It's also a bit phallic.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And one thing that I find interesting about Linda's work, and I've never voiced this at all, but we see flowers as fragile, and yet her work does not convey the fragility to me.
Mhm.
They seem stronger than that.
I think also from a purely biological viewpoint, the more beautiful the flower is, the more chances she has to transport her genetic code into the future.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's like a spaceship almost.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a very hi, it's Judy here. Hi, Linda.
Judy.
Hi.
Thanks,
Hi.
dear. I mean, I've written about your work before, and I've always been intrigued by your dichotomy of handling the flowers in not such a delicate manner. You know, I think Elaine is correct that it's quite strong. These flowers look like they don't have to, they're not going to bend over in the wind. Yet the combination of both phallic and vaginal is quite sexy and handled in a heavy-handed way. And I sort of like that strength in the femininity aspect of it. Also, you're not handling the striations of the flower, the petals and all of that in a delicate manner at all. And the vase itself, what I like about this particular piece, which I've never seen before, is it rather new? But
no, it's probably, oh no, it's quite old. Yeah, both
okay.
of these pieces.
So
I showed another one, is quite old.
I've not seen this body of work. I don't remember it anyway. I think the piece holds together from every aspect. It's all handled in the same way, which I like, that consistency and the fluidity of it all. So I think it is quite successful. I'm not quite sure, is that an open mouth, or it looks like a petal, like a tulip that is opened up? Is that a person yelling or screaming, or is it also for a flower? I mean, it also is like a petal, a pistil, the stamen and the pistil of the flower. So, but it does
Yeah,
look like
she-
somebody screaming.
Yeah, well, she's strutting to be heard. It's called Chanteuse de l'Opera. So yeah, she's
Got it. Got it.
She
Yeah,
could also be screaming for help.
Yeah.
Help! No,
but
no, she's screaming, it's me, take a look. No.
What's interesting in the opera house, they have that little place where the conductor stands hidden from view, where he stands that coaches the singer. So it's sort of like that, but it's also the vaginal shape too. I never thought of it before, but it certainly is there. Anyway, nice, very nice.
In an
Thank you.
abstract way, it makes me think a little bit of Ojai. The artist in Ojai, and who did the figures, the small figures. You know who I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Beatrice,
What?
you're talking about
Beatrice Wood.
Beatrice
Beatrice
Wood, yeah,
Wood. Yeah. Even though this is much less,
Oh,
yeah. Not, I mean, it's much less, I don't know, clear that it's a figure. Hers are definitely figurative,
Yeah.
females, etc. Yeah. Well, good. Well, let's move on to
Thank
somebody
you.
else's.
Thank you
and
very
we can-
much. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I gathered the work of somebody, but I don't know. Do you want, how are you doing this, Elaine?
just
All right,
at
so
random.
I had, did you want me to do that next one like I mentioned earlier?
Sure.
Sure.
I have somebody else's work too.
Yeah.
Not mine, but we have a really wonderful art museum, and they redid the contemporary art section this time. So I didn't even know we had this in the collection. And I walked in and I saw.
You have a great collection there, Anna.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's especially, we have a whole wing of Asian art for, university, and they're building a whole nother wing on top of the other three. So it's great. But this is, anybody guess who this is?
I know.
I told you.
I know. Well, I know too.
Yeah, this is a Nicholas Cave. So, and I've always been fascinated by his, his sound suits and all that. This was made in 2018. It's cast bronze plus vintage starburst and tulle flowers. It's a memorial for Black lives. And he supposedly, I read a little bit up on some of this. The arm that's depicted with part of the shoulder is actually cast from his body. So there's a whole series of these, and they're all literally his body parts. And he hopes what he wants to express with these is hope and peace, identity, race, and spirituality.
Wow.
And it's
Is that
probably
all?
it's
Is that
very
all,
long.
Anna?
Yeah.
He only wants to do hope, peace, spirituality.
So that's now, some of that is other people responding to what, but he does is dealing with the idea of Black Lives Matter kind of, this was about that timing, you know, so so some of that's imbued in this, but it's absolutely stunning. It's probably about 5 feet long.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
but they hung it high enough to where, actually I'm short, of course. I mostly see the, you know, directly in front of me are the flowers, the tulle flowers.
From a formal standpoint, I find it interesting because there are two really separate and diverse elements here, but those shadows bring the at the bottom of the flowers bring my eye back up to the wheel at the top.
That's interesting because
Mhm.
I also pulled this image off the internet, because this one I took with my phone camera, you know, and I was a little concerned because of the lighting. But then I decided, and the other one is just very white walls. There's no shadows or anything, you know, very professionally photographed. But I decided to show this one, Elaine. So it's interesting
Yeah.
because I think the shadows are a really beautiful and an important part of the piece.
Without question. Do you have any detail of it? When can you zoom in on it?
You know what? On mine, I can zoom in. It had plus and minus right on the screen when I got in. It was
Well,
great, and I got to do that.
Yep, at the
Yes.
top you can, Anna.
Hmm?
See where it says. See where it says.
Oh
zoom?
yeah, zoom.
Plus and minus.
Mine might say something different. Where does it say zoom?
It says Nick Cave Harn.
Oh,
and
okay.
then- and then
you know
to the
what's
right-
happening? That bar that the that they
Yeah,
use
it's
here,
covering it. Yeah.
it's hovering right over that.
Oh, there it goes. Oh.
And these are all metal, and these are all vintage.
Does
So
he create his own, or do he have fabricators work for him?
I think these are vintage, and he found them. A lot of it's, you know,
Yeah,
suits, he uses a lot of found objects. So
Yeah.
these are found metal flowers, and this is a found, and he's got a number of these kind of starburst things. These are vintage too. So the original part is basically the arm and the part of the shoulder here that you see.
So the flowers are metal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is
Interesting.
the title Harn, Harn?
The Harn
Yeah, the
Museum. Yeah.
And
That's
do you know what the origin of that word is?
Harn, Harn. Oh,
Yeah.
the reason, oh no, that the name of it, that's the name of the museum. So I just wanted to, the piece of this is arms peace. So the word peace is part of the title.
And it's peace, P-E-A-C-E,
Mm-hmm.
or peace, I-E-C-E?
No, P-E-A-C-E.
Oh, arm peace. Huh.
Mm-hmm. So there's a series of these that he did, like, I think it was like 2017 to, I think I've seen some as late as 2019, 2020, that kind of thing, that kind of span.
Nice.
Linda, you saw one, right? Did you see
I've
one?
seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of them. And this one really holds together well, because sometimes he's using plastic with metal with stuff, and I think it looks a little fractured, but this one really holds together well because it's all metal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the figure is what? Is it bronze?
Bronze,
Yes,
she said.
bronze. That's the
Yeah.
cast
Okay.
bronze part. Yeah.
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 He does whole installations with just stuff that he's, found in
Yeah.
junk shops or something.
But the fact that it is metal then I think reinforces his concept of this, we're here to stay.
Yeah. Permanence, strength,
Definite permanence.
materials. I think you're right, especially the bronze piece, the arm part really expresses that.
Yeah.
The
He's
material.
also used a black patina on the bronze, which when you look at this piece, the first thing for me anyway that comes to mind is Black Power.
Mhm.
Because of the arm, I think of the black fist
Mhm.
Yeah.
that became so, iconic during
Yeah.
riots in
Mhm.
Right.
throughout our decades. But it has that sense of menace as well as beauty, which I
Mhm.
find very, very seductive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for me, I have to have more information than just beauty, it seems to me. And of course, I'm getting it in this.
Yeah. What
And
did you say what the title is, Anna?
Arms, ARMS, and then it's, I think it's semicolon, Peace, PEACE.
Okay.
But there's a series of these, and it was hard to tell which one said different titles or whatever. If this is, I think the arms is the idea of the series, and then he has different titles for the others.
Okay.
For others.
Yeah.
And this happens to be Peace.
Yeah.
Well, that also could relate to the military, you know, soldier in arms, arms as being part
Mhm.
of a
Mhm.
militia.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he might be exploiting that idea.
Especially
Yeah,
with
and the
that
black.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, especially with that upper circular area being like a shield. And it's so
Mhm.
fascinating to see this in contrast to his textiles that are at the Renwick or from
Right.
Cranbrook, which have the movement and flow and more of a softness, though he does have a group of fabricators or people that help him piece together all of that. It's not just an individual, but
Right.
this is powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's
really
really,
is.
yeah, it's really
Really
effective.
stood. It was stunning. It was towards the back, and I saw it, and basically I ignored everything else around it and went right to it. So, and
Yeah.
I didn't know it was his. I'm not familiar with this series. Very familiar with his other, his sound suits and all that kind of stuff. So when I read who made it, it took me back. I was floored a little bit there because of that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the right way work. Yeah. Wow.
A lot of the
Wow.
black community is in the military also, because
Mm.
they're poor. Because they're poor, it's a place to go.
Oh, sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's beautiful and it's stunning and it attracted me. And then like all this discussion we're having now, it kind of all of this starts to tumble out of it somehow, which is interesting. So even beautiful things can get us to think about some things that perhaps aren't so good or aren't at the best of the situation right now. So
Well, and we were talking at our meeting last month that we didn't want sunsets. And beauty in art, to me, doesn't stand alone. As we said with Linda's pieces and with this, the beauty of it can bring us in for a deeper dive into the meaning of the piece.
Hmm.
right. So
Yeah,
this
it's a way to get
attracts-
in. It's a
Yeah,
way to get
yeah.
in. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's very attractive. And like I said, it wasn't on the back wall, but it was near the back. And so it really, like I said, it drew me for sure into the space.
And Rita just put into the chat that it's reminiscent of Greek or Roman as well. But which is a little ironic about that is that the Greek and Roman had the arms missing. And,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's where they ended up.
Yeah.
And I have a question. I have a question about that piece. The flowers and the plants that are hanging down, are they perceived as they're dead or they're dying, or what is what is that? I can't quite tell from the image.
Yeah. Well, they're made
They're
out of metal
decaying.
and they're vintage. So they were,
Okay.
I guess as he probably found a bunch of these in different places, because there's a lot of this sort of wrought irony kind of
Okay.
not wrought iron, but metal kind of thing. But I get the sense of I go back and forth with that because some of these seem to look like they're reaching for the sky, and then some of them look like they're dying. So
Do you think that there's an implication of rebirth there? I mean, when I was kind of squinting my eyes and looking at this piece, and that's hence my question. I couldn't tell if the message was rebirth from decay, or that's just my question.
yeah.
and that's
More of the
interesting because
growth
they don't.
looks-
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Lena.
no. I was just going to say more of the growth seems to be going down, but then there are a few sprouts giving a little hope at the top.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to. And then of course that the starburst or sunburst, I think of it more of as a sun, but the title said, the label said it was a starburst or whatever. But that to me is a sense of hope that I get
Yeah.
from that.
And I almost read those the floral elements as metals. They're kind of like lanyards or
Oh.
brocades. But
Mm.
also, if buried, roots underground, those who go to war and are buried with metal, honors of metals. I don't know. That's just how it speaks to me personally, just the subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have those wilted flowers in a graveyard,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But then there are the few, as Anna said, or someone said, that are growing up toward the
Yeah.
sun
Nancy, yeah.
along with the arm. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's give
Yeah,
others a little chance too here.
thank you. That was good.
I
I
think
think Judy said she had some.
Diane. Oh, Judy had something.
Yeah,
Okay, and then
I'll-
we'll go to
yes.
Diane.
I'm sorry, are you
Judy,
coming?
you want to share your screen?
Okay. In the discussion last week was so interesting, made me start to think about how I wanted to think this week about beautiful things in my life. And I decided to just pull up an artist whose work brings a serenity to my life when I look at the work. They're playful, and they have a certain charm about the way the surface is handled. And I think maybe because things are going so strange in our lives these days, with such chaos going on, and I'm got to really think this week of this month. Actually, it's hard to believe that it's been a month that we've talked about this, but there's a playfulness and a quietness and a beauty in Sheeta Quo's work that I wanted to share with you. And one of the beautiful things that I like about that I like the way he handles the material, because we talked a lot about skill last week. And notice in this particular piece, and the piece below it, there's always this other element of wood that he brings into it.
Mhm.
And because the wood is handled also almost interfacing with the clay in such a beautiful way, I find it very powerful. There's also a playfulness and a body reference that I adore also. And so when you're looking at the work, you feel a kind of quietness and playfulness. And just to me, it's just beautiful. And maybe because things have been so tumultuous in our lives, and I'm feeling it so much with my family in Israel and my other family that's in Palestine. It's just the conflict of it all. But there's something about Sheeta's work, the puzzlement of it, the juxtaposition of form, the relationship to the body, and then the orifices that are highlighted with wood, with another material, and the meticulousness with which these are put together just gives me a wonderful, joyful feeling. And as I said, I think I just needed it this time. When he deals with a solid color, the surface is just beautifully handled. It's rich. This piece almost looks like leather. It's burnished, meticulously burnished. And so you just see a lot of playfulness, beauty, surface, attention to detail. This is his latest work. And I just think it's so playful. It's like this person standing or balancing on one leg. And yet it's full of volume and full of energy of the vessel form. He also plays with color and with matte and shiny, which I think gives tremendous oomph to the work, because the interior of this body you would think is like bloody and wet, and the outside is dry like the skin. So the body metaphor is quite beautiful to me as well. And I think this last piece that he's done some large scale outdoor sculptures, and again, keeping with that same simplicity and beauty of form.
What's that material of that big piece?
It's aluminum.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah.
The outdoor piece is aluminum as well?
Yeah, it's aluminum.
Okay.
And he had
Okay.
it fabricated in a factory. And I think maybe there is one more shot. No, that was just a little blurb about him. So he is a Taiwan born. He actually was my student at NYU, and he was so talented. He became the shop assistant at NYU. And so I've known him for many years. He doesn't show much here. He shows at the Soko Gallery in Kyoto, and he has a gallery in Paris, and he has he used to show Nancy Margolis here in New York, but I don't think Nancy shows much ceramic these days. Anyway.
Interesting. It's to me, the work is really peaceful.
Right.
With this skin-like surface, as you mentioned, and yet the denying, like this one that you're just showing, that terracotta colored one, isn't a vessel, but the others seem to deny their function, and yet they have an inside and outside.
Yes,
and
don't they feel voluminous? You mean they feel like they're filled with volume? Is that
yes.
what you mean?
Well, no, what I mean is that they're vessels, but they don't work.
Right.
You know, he's denying the function of the vessel. With the wood, with the laying it on its side, with the spout or the neck of a bottle being horizontal instead of vertical. And yet they're like that one right there. And yet they're very peaceful.
Yeah, but I relate this to the body, an orifice, belly button, anus. It could, it's both male, female. I mean, I think they are playful, and yeah, I think they, reference the vessel, but they're full of volume, full of air. You almost feel the inside and the outside, and they're so playful.
How large is this one?
That's quite.
Or the black one?
That black one is about 3 feet high.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And that little curve, this little bend, this little, like the body, the bending at the waist, it's a metaphor for the body. It's playful and metaphor for the body. And then I just love the wood. I don't know, there's something about, it's almost, who's that, Perrier, Martin Perrier.
Martin Perrier, yeah.
It deals so beautifully with mixed media. Right. And I think working mixed media with clay is one of the most difficult things to do. So often they're not seamlessly brought together. And I think Sheeta's craftsmanship in bringing these together, when you look at the seam up close, you just marvel at its beauty. I guess that's the word, because it melds so well, and there's such deliberate attention to detail. And for me, Joe, when we were talking last time, about what are some of the attentions to detail, I think we mentioned last time that who was the fellow online who was talking about craftsmanship?
Curtis Benzel.
Curtis, right.
Kurt Benzel, yeah.
Yeah.
Bensley.
And I think that is an element to it, that attention to detail that gives us cause to stop and take notice.
I think he has a great, you can tell it's handmade too. And that gives you a lot of humanity to the pieces.
I was, Judy, when you were moving them around, there's just this such great command of what he's doing without bragging. You know what I'm saying? There's just there's this beautiful form that is unpredictable, but so confident and elegant. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Nancy, you're absolutely right. That's the elegant is the right word. And there's always some element that's consistent, the little blip burst here or the little burst here. There's a consistency from piece to piece. So you almost can tell his style,
Mhm.
you know. And I think it's not easy, you know, to be so playful and yet so serious, you know.
Yeah. You know, they put me in mind of Yiwen Kuo. Do you know his work?
Oh
Anna,
yeah.
you probably
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And he's also Taiwanese,
Yes, very much
which is
so. That's,
interesting.
yeah. Mhm.
But you know, if I didn't tell you that this was from a Taiwan person, I don't think he has a country of origin. I mean, it doesn't look like it comes from the East. Do you think it's Eastern?
It just
I
made me
think it has a lot of austerity, like yeah, it has a lot of Buddhist austerity, I think, or Japanese austerity.
When
That's interesting. Yeah.
when I first saw these, I was thinking of Martin Puryear. You
Yeah.
know, that was kind of like my first
Yeah.
association, especially the pieces that are kind of on an angle on the on their base or on the floor. Yes, and just this amplification of seemingly simple form and meditating on that in a way that bursts with meaning. Yeah, that was that was my first association.
And when
I think that the association also with these blob objects and these protractions reminds me a little bit of Ron Nagel, the
Yes.
the
Yes.
whimsicality
Yes,
of that
absolutely.
form.
Right.
But and
That's
a little bit of Jeff Koons, the inflatability of objects, or the metal sculptor Jeremy
Yeah.
Thomas, who makes metal look like it's blowing balloons. But I love his sense of volume metric. As Judy said, like you have blown breath into the form. And I think the way that Judy, when you described it, I hope you have written about him, because your narrative about his work was, just perfection. I
thank you.
understood everything about his work from the way you described it.
Thank you. I've never written about him. I just have enjoyed his work. And it's funny that I've never thought about Ron Nagel and Koons, but you're absolutely right. And I'd never thought about it before like that. And I really thank you for it. But I have to say that these pieces give me a calmness and a serenity that I just feel is beautiful. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just loved the topic last time, and just thinking about it this whole month has made me and I just yesterday decided I would show Quo. It just popped into me, and gathering these things. So Joe, thanks for that. I just talked off the top of my head about what makes it work for me, and I think I have thought about it, but sort of subconsciously. And then it just comes out in a verbal format, which I think is nice. But anyway, like the wood with
Okay. We'll
right?
move along.
Yeah.
Let me just say,
Thank
they
you.
also remind me, let me unmute myself.
You're unmuted. We can hear
Okay.
you.
They also remind me of a masculine version of Eva Kwon,
Mm, yeah.
because of the combination of the shapes, the materials, and the particular attention to volume.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I
Interesting.
think Eva's probably in some way pay more attention to a figure than these do.
Yeah.
But there's another Asian reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks,
Thank you.
Judy.
Thank you. That was
Okay.
great.
Thank
that's
you.
great.
That's great. Thanks for
Diane?
introducing us to that artist. Whoa.
And I will share the live piece. Let me see if you can see it.
Maybe can you
Wait.
share? Can you stop share? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
See. Can you?
Oh, you have.
Yes, here is the piece though. It's actually Richard DeVore.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness, really? With color?
Really,
Yeah.
in color. 1972.
Give us the bottom of the
Yeah, we can't
piece.
see the
Let-
bottom, Diane. Yeah, can you
Okay,
give it a
let me
lift?
see.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh, a Richard
Yeah,
DeVore.
I would
Believe it
never
or
ever
not,
guess that.
Richard DeVore.
Oh,
What
look at the
year?
top. Can we see the top again?
Yeah, let me.
What year is
Sorry.
it?
Oh,
Inside,
that's a
there's,
beautiful edge.
and I particularly love the whole that face. And I know it's a very
Wow.
unusual form. I was at Cranbrook. I lived 10 minutes away, went there for high school. And in the 70s, the artists at Cranbrook had their work for sale in the local mall where there was Saks and Bonwit Teller, and they set up little booths. And as a 12-year-old kid, I
Wow.
told my mom I wanted this piece.
Wow.
All had to pick from 7th grade on an area of art to specialize in.
That's
Whether
amazing.
weaving, silversmithing, and I picked ceramics for my 6 years
Wow.
there. And my teacher was taught by Maya Grotel. But anyway, the reason I selected this piece, yes, it is unusual for a DeVore, but I always feel that it in some ways is that unexpected. You know, when I think of beauty and when I read about it from 19th century, or I bring your attention to Stanford has its philosophy department online, and I will send you a selection on their treatise on beauty, which goes from
Great.
Aristotle versus Plato and up to the present. But often one hears terms of, you know, smooth and perfection. To me, this is the raw, unfired, you know, it has that warmth and glow as if it's still in the kiln and hot lava is flowing in a way. And just the seams and the boundaries, it's just, you know, unrefined, unexpected. I'm sure others have their own reactions, but to challenge the notions when I read about a smooth, perfectionistic surfaces or, you know, perfectly centered on the wheel, just to challenge all of that and to say that each of these artists we come to love or understand have a time period in their life where their work is so different. I could have shared with you Kurt Weiser's raku work that was about 2 feet tall of a figure. And when I brought him the brochure of it, he made it at 27. He had forgotten he ever worked in almost an African style of dress and completely nothing like the China painting of his present. So to meet these artists in their youth and before they found, you know, their vocabulary that they keep repeating in different ways, I'm just fascinated at what motivated them as one-offs that for whatever reason they didn't return to.
Well, DeVore is certainly one that you can assign beauty to, I think. Yeah, I think his work is amazing. I'd have to be able to really touch that and look inside carefully to see if I see seeds of him. He was Harris Deller's professor, and Harris was my professor, so he's my clay grandfather. And Anna just wrote that hers is Maya Grotel.
Grandmother.
clay
She's my
grandfather.
grandmother.
Yes,
Yeah.
whose work
Grandmother,
I
yeah.
loved and taught Robert Klein, who was then my teacher, and it just keeps flowing.
William McCrath was mine, and yeah, it's
Yes.
I feel such a connection.
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Wow. But that the color just floored me when you said it was a
I know, a DeVore.
I know.
way.
And
Yeah.
I can testify. He became a friend of the family and would come
Oh,
over.
nice.
So I met him, and I have the recall, even though I might not have all the paperwork that shows
Yeah.
it was his.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it signed, Diane?
You know, it isn't. It's gold inside, and I keep looking or thinking.
Well,
what
Push it
was
so we can Oh, excuse me, push it so we can see it better and adjust your screen so it's all, the whole thing is on there. We haven't seen
Oh,
it yet.
yeah. that's
Oh,
it.
I would
Yeah.
suggest, I would
You can
suggest that
also go to speaker
me-
view.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
suggest
Yeah, let's
that
do that.
you upload it to the Marks project
If you
on
go to
Richard
speaker
DeVore's
view, then
page, because
Okay.
because it's so different
Right
from
there.
anything that people associate with him.
Yeah.
And you have the provenance of owning
Yes.
directly from him or from where you purchased it. And it would be so great for the clay audience to know
Yeah.
that this is an early work from Richard DeVore. And I
Oh,
can help you do that if you want.
Okay, and I'll send an image later just around because I have it on my phone, but I just did it last minute.
Okay.
So, you know, you can get a better look, and the inside, which is like a gold bronze
oh,
color. And it's just, it's just like, yeah, what was he on that day? And then when did the
Yeah.
colors disappear? Yeah.
So let me ask you, since Richard was always so involved with interior space, and bringing attention to the inside, do you think this was a prelude to that? You know, wanting to bring the viewer to peer inside,
I
because
do believe so, because it has that S curve on the interior that's almost a yin yang division that's about 3
Mm.
inches tall of just this dividing line.
Yeah.
So it seemed that exploration of the creasing and the interior and kind of a peek hole, as if you were actually
Yeah.
in a kiln looking to see how, you know, what cones are bending, that it really speaks to the process of firing, making. And I don't know, when we used to mix up the glazes ourselves, it was barium and lithium and all that dangerous stuff
Yeah.
with a mortar and pestle. And I don't know when that changed in the studio, but at some point they took away the barium from us, you know.
Good.
Yeah.
you know what's interesting why I ask about the interiors, because there's always some little quirk in an artist's career where they've done something and all of a sudden something clicks, and it is an instant, it's a flash
Yes.
to move
It's a
on
pivotal,
to
it's a pivotal
pivotal
time, I
turn,
think.
right, exactly. And
Yeah.
I see it in Howard Kotler's work when he was working with certain kinds of forms that all of a sudden, when he rolled the clay into corncob and let that burn out in the kiln, and he had that incredible texture, and it was a moving point onto the next level.
Yeah.
But sometimes that germ of an experience is that motivation enough to change your whole way of thinking, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what's so
Yeah.
nice. You definitely have to put this into the Marks project so that they can, you know, document
Yeah.
this this lineage of idea.
Happy
Yeah.
to do that.
If I
And
could
I'll
just-
take a flash photo of the interior so you can, you know, see more clearly
Okay.
the
Good.
inside.
If
And
I
I'll
could
let you
just-
move on to other.
Okay,
I'm
let's
sorry,
move
I'd
on
like
now.
to add one thing on that about Howard Kotler and about this piece. Howard Kotler used to always refer, when I was in school, he'd always refer to the pieces that you made that didn't quite work. They weren't the pieces you were going to get famous for, but there was something about them. And he
Yeah.
used to call it art grosso. And and art grosso, you always want to hang on to them because, as you were saying, that's the flashpoint where there's something about it that
Exactly.
makes it really interesting.
Exactly. Propels you to the next
Yeah, yeah,
another
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah. Very
Kind of
good.
sort of a link, right? It's a link.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that. I don't know Art Grosso. Thank
It's a
you.
great term.
Great, I love it.
Okay,
Just love it.
Joe, you're
Oh,
on.
yes. Hi. Okay, let me share screen.
I'm glad we're doing this, Elaine. This is really nice.
It is nice. It's great.
Can you all see
Oh,
it?
wow.
Big
All
it
right.
up. Let's
So
see if I
when-
can
Wow.
big it up.
When we talked last month about coming up with an object that, well, I thought of it as something that's inspired me. And I have to say that these are two pieces by Dominic DeMare. And the one on the right of my screen, which is called When the River Meets the Sea, it's from 1984, and the one on the left,
I
1980.
only see one.
You're only seeing
Oh,
one.
you only see one? Okay, I'm sorry. Let me bring up the other one. I had them both on the screen at the same time, but it doesn't matter because really I want to talk about this one anyway. I can show you the other one really quickly. It was just as an example of what he does. So here's another one of what he does.
Oh,
Do you-
wow.
Do you see that one, the tall sculpture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Beautiful.
you don't see the pink one.
No.
No.
Okay,
No.
all right. So
I
I'm gonna go
do.
back.
I did.
Okay, I'm gonna go
I can
back to
see the pink one.
the pink one. They're both on my desktop, so maybe I should just share my desktop. That's
Yeah.
what I'll do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
I like the other one. like- What is it? Is it what is it? Brush?
okay,
What-
well,
don't know.
let me just go on because we have so limited time. I don't want to take up all the time trying to share this
We
the
can
right
go
way.
over just so we get everybody in if everybody wants to.
Okay, so you all see the screen with the pink figure.
No.
Nope.
No.
Right now, we don't.
All right, then let me go back to share screen, pink figure, click. Okay, now do you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to make it as big as possible. So this is Dominic DeMare, and he is now 91 years old. And I had the opportunity to meet him working on the Craft in America show. But before I knew anything about his biography, I knew about him through this piece. And this piece I saw at the former American Craft Museum, now Museum of Arts and Design. And I just stood there in awe, staring at it. I was just going through the museums, you know how you do when you're in New York and you're going to go see a show. And I just wondered what in the heck would drive this man to dye this Chinese horsehair pink of all the colors in the spectrum. And the pink is it doesn't show up as well as in this photograph, but it is shocking. It's neon pink and it's gold leaf on wood behind it with a photograph that is hidden behind the hair. And it is typical of DeMare to do that because in this piece, now you see the one that's standing, correct?
Yes.
He has hidden the way they photograph this is they tilted it so you can see, but there's a rock behind the hair. He's always got something that you can't quite, observe with the naked eye. So you have to imagine a ritualistic power that's coming from his work. But I had never seen anybody use horsehair before. He comes from a weaving. He taught himself how to weave. His father owned a commercial fishing boat. He's very connected, even by his name, which is DeMare, from the sea. He works with a lot of materials that reference the ocean. And then he started, after doing that, this horsehair series. And I can never get it out of my mind. I just think it's a brilliant use of materials. It's a brilliant way to do a sculpture that is so different from anybody else's, right? You can't think of another person, at least I can't, who does this kind of work. And to this day, I would still go visit it if it were on display and stand in front of it and let my imagination run. What was he thinking? Because it gets me thinking. And I also think it's quite beautiful because it has references to the body, to a woman who has turned her long hair down her back, and she's got her back to you. So there's a lot of associations.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the scale of that piece?
Oh, it's 48 inches high,
Okay.
and it's
That's
probably
long horsehair.
28 inches wide, but it actually felt a lot larger when I stood in. They had it high. So it,
Right.
it appeared down at you almost as a tribal figure that was dancing. I mean, there's just so many ways that I think of this piece, and that's what makes it beautiful to me, because I never run out of any associations.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
what you're saying is mystery. He's got a lot of mystery, and I love that idea of the hidden thing. But it's a mystery, figuratively speaking. If it was a figure, or I don't know. Yeah, I think that mystery adds beauty, maybe.
Well, it's also that says there's a photograph and you can almost see it behind the hair, but they
Yeah.
never describe what's in the photograph. Nobody ever talks about it. It's never written about. I would like to go when no one's looking and move that hair aside
The mystery of the figure, huh?
because
What
Uh-huh.
it's
I
maybe
think
it's a
that's really-
memorial to somebody, but it is called Domus / from the river to the sea. And Domus
Oh.
means home, and he
Yeah.
lives in Monterey, or I think he grew up in Monterey. I think he lives in Tiburon, but he does live by the water.
Yeah.
So
I think you've hit something very significant using the word mystery.
Mhm.
Because when something doesn't reveal itself totally, that kind of unknown adds to the beauty and the wonderment of what your imagination can do with what is not seen, but what you can imagine. And I think one of the aspects of an analyzing beauty is to have an air of the unknown that allows the imagination to flow.
Mhm.
And I think that's what makes this piece quite wonderful because of that. Not quite sure what you're looking at, but it's that mystery, that unknown adds the dimension that makes it not boring, because it's not all spelled out for you, and isn't
Right.
a metaphor for life also.
Mhm. Exactly.
well, and the
Great.
hair
Well said.
This book, well, I'm sorry, I'll read it to you. This book is by Signe Mayfield, came out in 2017 on his life, and it's called Anchors in Time. And it's really a well-written book, and I recommend it.
Hmm.
In fact, I was thinking, Lane, that we should invite Sydney to be part of our group. She was the longtime curator of the Palo Alto Art Center, and then became an independent. And
Sure.
she wrote this book when she was an independent.
That'd be great. Just send me her email and make sure she wants me to be inundating her monthly.
I will introduce her, and Nancy probably knows her too.
Okay. We have one final piece that I want to get in, because it's and I'm going to share my screen because I have it up. This is from Rita Donham, and I have 3 images of the same very traditional, I would say, Chinese pot.
No, actually, I'll speak now,
Korean?
Elaine. It's
Okay, yeah.
Mary
Korean.
Burgess who gave it to me. She's my mother-in-law. She made sure I knew it was not Chinese, it was Korean.
Okay.
And we discussed that previously, that it could have been from the Goryeo or the Goryeo dynasty, like
Yeah.
918 to 1300 somewhat. And so this has been in her family for quite a while. Her father was a professor of political science at the University of Michigan, and he was sent to the Philippines on several missions, but he ended up writing the history of the Philippines, which was published in 1942. But when he was the vice governor of the Philippines, and he took his whole family to live there then. So my mother-in-law ended up growing up in the Philippines partially, but he was walking through a village in Baguio, which is in a mountain town on the island of Luzon. It's north of Manila.
Huh.
And
Mm.
so that was an area where the dignitaries actually visited a lot because there was a teaching school, a school for teachers up there, a college for teachers, because it was nice climate. And he was walking through this very primitive village one afternoon, and a man came out of a hut, a primitive shelter, and he was carrying this bowl in his hands, and it still had rice in it from the meal, and he was offering it to Mary's father as a tribute gift. And the mystery that we were just talking about that makes this so beguiling is
Oh,
we know that this was not produced in the Philippines, and quite possibly did it come on a ship full of ceramics from Korea and it was stored there for centuries, and then this, a tribesman found it and he used it for his family food, or, how did the trade of ceramics actually work through the Philippines? Did they have staging areas for these beautiful pieces? And then the reason why it's so beautiful to me is the mystery, and then the history, which connects it to me through my husband, is that was his grandfather who was gifted this bowl. And then it's also got this quiet strength with the color, the size, the weight of it, and the confidence with which it's executed.
I think
it's persisted these many centuries intact. There's not one chip on that rim.
I think one of the things that to me makes it so beautiful too is it's perfection on the top. These marks. I mean, you can see that there's variation and done by the human hand, but then the irregular drip of the foot just brings it into that humanity. You can just feel it being dipped.
Right. And the foot
glazed.
itself is glazed. If you turn it over, there's glaze all the way to the bottom, and it was stacked on a circular. When it was fired, it had a lifter, which allowed the foot to be glazed. That's in one of the photos, but
yeah,
I love the variation in the marks. Those were probably pieces of a piece of bamboo that carved that, but it's I'm not sure if it's a celadon glaze. It's definitely got iron in it. It's a little dark green for celadon, but
Celadon comes in many greens, really
here's
pale.
the foot.
All the way up
Yeah,
to
sure.
for sure.
Mhm.
So there's the
I would
foot.
call it Celadon.
Mhm.
There was a show when we were in Korea of a shipwreck of Korean pottery found off the Vietnam coast, and it was several hundred years old and had just been brought up. And I wonder if the trade routes carried that past, and maybe it was found rather than traded or acquired in some way.
Mm-hmm. It's 13 inches in diameter. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure that it was found or traded to this tribesman in the mountain area, because they carved things out of wood and they used bones and human skulls. I mean, they were cannibals not that recently, and but there's no real, ceramic artwork in the Philippines. They probably have very little clay there.
Could be.
Possibly. Yeah, could be. Interesting. It's a beautiful bowl. You're lucky to have it.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
And
Thank
Landon,
you.
before you sign